Hello.
What's up?
Hey, just hanging out. What are you up to? Ready for Christmas, that's for sure.
Yeah, I still gotta buy some gifts for people, which
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that today.
I always wait last minute. I hate Christmas shopping. I don't know what to get anybody.
I got a couple things, but they're in the mail, I guess, basically.
Yeah, thank God for Amazon. I ordered a couple things as well, and I got one more person to buy for, which is my sister, and I'm like, what the hell do I buy her?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I've been watching a crap load of Christmas movies here lately.
I have a couple that I'm going to watch this year. There's a couple that I watch every year, but I'm trying to add to that list. And that's one thing we were going to talk about in today's podcast, our top 5 Christmas movies.
Yes.
Because I thought that's obviously very timely, but I love Christmas movies. And we talked about this before, like, in terms of our list, like movies that are set during Christmas. Like Die Hard, sure, it's technically a Christmas movie, but like...
And to some, it is the greatest Christmas movie of all time, but we're not going to put it on the list.
I mean, I think it's a great movie, but is it the greatest Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Like, I think there are a lot of better movies that have a better, like, that Christmas feel to them.
Yeah,
and it really doesn't have much of a Christmas feel to it. It does in some ways, but not compared to some of others on my list.
I mean, maybe
in terms
somebody...
of being a Christmas movie...
This might be a Christmas movie for somebody like maybe over in, I don't know, the Middle East. That's when they're like, Die Hard's the greatest action/Christmas movie to other people. Because,
it is. It is the greatest Christmas action movie, probably, but I wouldn't say...
I mean, Batman Returns is up there, too, just because...
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably the greatest Christmas superhero action movie. I mean, Christmas movie.
I could say that. But in terms of, like, just a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That's kind of what I left my list as, like just Christmas, not really another genre.
Gives you that Christmas feeling, into the Christmas spirit, basically.
Yeah.
Well, my list, I basically went with, the only way I could pick out my top 5 was thinking about films that I go out of my way each year to see. So it's my opinion on these films. Of course, it's the same with yours as well, but I'm sure some people are going to look at the list and go, "Really? That's your top 5?" But
I'm sure we're going to have some crossover, and maybe we'll have some debate. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But we're going to start with number 5. I can start with mine first.
All right, go for it.
You're ready.
I'm ready.
My 5th favorite Christmas movie, and maybe this is a surprise that it's this low, is Christmas Vacation.
That's on my list too.
Yeah, I assume it's going to be higher than mine.
It is.
But and it's more again, it might be. It's probably maybe it's a better movie than some that I have above this. But in terms of like my sentimental, emotional attachment to it, you know what I mean. I didn't watch it quite as much as some of these others growing up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's hilarious, and it's definitely another one I'm going to watch again this year. I know we watched part of it a couple weeks ago. I didn't get to finishing it, but it was really late at night. But we're gonna. We're definitely going to watch that again this year. I am, at least.
Yeah, when you come up, we'll check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Even though it'll be after Christmas, but this is a movie you can watch all year long, as far as I'm concerned.
It's great, and I think it's by far the best vacation movie.
Yeah, and they don't go anywhere.
Really, there's only, really only 2 good vacation movies. I don't really think Vegas or European are very good.
Yeah, the first and third are the best, and the second one, I mean, I think Randy Quaid kind of makes that movie to me.
Which one? Is European the second one, right?
Yeah, European second, 1985 that came out. This one came out in 89.
I've only seen it once. Now we're straying away from Christmas. It's very... I don't really remember it all that much. There's some funny parts, but Christmas is definitely my favorite one. I mean, and also obviously Chevy Chase, but Randy Quaid I think really kills it in Christmas Vacation as well. Like some of the one-liners are just like he's so ridiculous.
That's the gift that keeps on giving, Clark.
Just his looks and stuff, like, you serious, Clark? Like, just that one line.
It's that classic, Naked Gun, deadpan kind of humor where he doesn't have to be so out there in order to make a person laugh.
Yeah, so that's my number 5. We could go on for that for a while. What's your number 5?
All right, number 5 is It's a Wonderful Life, classic film, Jimmy Stewart, 1946. I mean, thing's been playing for over 70 years, and people still find this to be one of the big classic Christmas films.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think Frank Capra directed it. What else did he direct? He directed Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Mr. Deeds Goes. So he did a lot of Jimmy Stewart films back in the day.
Yeah,
but it's just a timeless kind of story that I don't think they really do a lot of remakes of it. It's kind of funny that they do a lot of.
It is funny, yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of films kind of based on the same premise of, what if I wasn't here, and what would life be without me, basically. But they don't. It's not really It's a Wonderful Life. It's usually like a cheesy Hallmark version or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd want to see a remake of that.
No,
it's like a perfect movie, like it is, and it's a perfect movie for when it takes place too. It just feels like it'd be weird to try to make that set modern day almost.
Yeah,
I don't know, like the setting and everything just feels right to that movie. I guess I might as well continue. My number 4 is It's a Wonderful Life. so I might as well kind of continue on that. But obviously they play it every year around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of, it's just a movie that I've seen probably a million times, but in terms of actually watching it, from beginning to end, not as many, because it's, I always catch it in the middle of the movie or something on TV.
Yeah, and usually when I watch it, it's somewhere like in the middle of the film, and I'll watch it to the end. But
yeah,
it's been a long time since I sat down from the very beginning and watched it, but I at least do see a part of it before I call it a year.
It's a good, it's a very original take on a Christmas Carol almost.
Mm-hmm.
It has that kind of feel to it, but it feels like it's its own unique thing.
Instead of the ghost trying to tell him hey, you're a really bad guy, you need to become a good guy. This guy is good. And, the ghosts are kind of telling him, hey, you actually are a great person that people want around. It's almost the opposite of A Christmas Carol, in a way. Yeah.
But I think everything about it just kind of, really hits the nail on the head for a Christmas movie. It's probably one of the, it's obviously a very timeless Christmas movie, but I think it's one of the best as well. It probably is considered the best Christmas movie of all time.
Yeah, it's on a lot of people's number 1, I'm sure.
It's just my number 4 and your number 5. So what's your number 4?
Oh, well, A Muppet's Christmas Carol is my number 4. And, some people might be rolling their eyes about that. But you know what? It's a childhood, one of those films I've been watching since a kid, and I have to watch it every time it comes out. It came out in the early 90s. Michael Caine, I think, plays a great Scrooge.
Yeah.
I think better than a lot of Scrooges that came before him, or even after him. I think he's better than the Jim Carrey Scrooge that came out in 2009 or 10 when that one came out.
I wasn't a huge fan of that one.
No, it was
the Jim Carrey one.
It might have been more about the book, in terms of they had the computer effects and stuff like that, where they could do exactly what Charles Dickens described in the book, but I don't care. Muppets Christmas Carol is just kind of I don't know. It has a place in my heart that I just can't get out there.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think it is. It's good, but I won't talk about too much more about it yet. I'll go to my number 3 since you mentioned Jim Carrey. This is a Jim Carrey movie. Can you guess what it is?
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
It's The Grinch, yeah, with Jim Carrey, the Ron Howard one. I recently rewatched it. I don't know, maybe a month ago.
Is it just called The Grinch, or is it How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
Oh, it probably is I just call it The Grinch. I don't know. That's kind of what everyone calls it anyways. Yeah, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey, directed by Ron Howard. It's it kind of comes at the end of because it's 2000, 2001, I think it came out.
Yeah, actually 2000, I think.
I just feel like if they remade it today, which I think they're going to in an animated style, it's going to be G-rated and it'll be more kiddish. This is really not, it's a very hard PG, I would say, realistically. There's a lot of adult humor in there that went way over my head when I first saw it, and you watch it, it's but it's very funny too. And there's a lot of stuff that's not necessarily adult humor, but stuff that kids won't get. When he's when he's in the mailroom throwing stuff, everyone's mailbox, jury duty, I'm 12 years old. That doesn't mean anything.
No one knows what jury duty is when you're
I don't get
5 years old,
but,
10 years old.
But it's funny now,
Yeah, I read a thing.
Yeah.
I read a thing about
blackmail.
I read a thing about Jim Carrey. I guess when he was playing the character of the Grinch, he's claustrophobic, and
oh really?
He had to wear that entire suit for. I think it took him 8 hours to get into it, and then he was in it for a good 12, 14 hours during the day. And I guess this is back in the time where you had to wear certain things, like his eyes. Those were massive contacts that went into his eyes, and he had to wear those. That made his entire eye yellow. And he just hated it. I guess they had to call somebody in to talk him like a psychologist. To it's just a suit. You're not really suffocating inside of it. But hey,
the makeup in that movie is great.
Oh,
I mean, it still holds up really well today.
But could you imagine sitting through makeup that long every day for like 100 days? Doing this film.
No, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
When I was in LA, I went to the Universal Backlot on their tour. They still have the town of Whoville.
Yeah.
Like built because it's so weird. It's like I gotta imagine like what else can they use this for? All these houses are like so weirdly shaped and stuff. It was really well done. I mean, it looks like it comes right out of a Dr. Seuss book.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like you can only use it if you're making a Dr. Seuss movie, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, that's my number 3 movie.
Well, my number 3 is The Polar Express.
Okay.
Came out in 2004. I remember. I think I just got out of. Was it 2004? I think it was 2004.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Around that time.
Tom Hanks was in it. Didn't really. I guess critics kind of panned the film when it first came out, and I enjoyed it. It was like it was one of Robert Zemeckis' first films that he did computer. He went and did like 3 films back to back.
Was it before or after Beowulf?
It was before Beowulf. Beowulf came out like 2 or 3 years after this one, and then Christmas Carol came out right after Beowulf did. But I mean, when you watch it, you can tell that they've really come far in the computer animation.
Does it still hold up or not as much?
Well, no, it does hold up. It has its own special way of animation. It almost looks like it's from the book itself, because it's based off a children's book.
Yeah.
So
was that motion capture?
That was motion capture. It was like one of the first motion capture films.
Because I remember watching a thing about Beowulf and the motion capture for that movie, which I thought was okay, but I haven't seen it since theaters, so I don't know how well it has held up.
Oh, I've seen this. I've seen The Polar Express probably a good 4 or 5 times in movie theaters, but that's over the years, because I watched it maybe 2 or 3 times when it came out, and that was with, I went with a girlfriend of mine, and then I went with my mom, and then I went with my sister, and then it went out of theaters, and then 2 or 3 years later, they re-released it. And I think I went with my grandma, and then I went with somebody else. But
yeah, I never saw that one in theaters.
When's the last time you watched it?
It's been a long time.
It's a good movie. I mean, it kind of really gives you that Christmas spirit, because this kid's on a train who doesn't believe in Santa Claus, which I think if a train magically appeared out in front of my house where there's no train tracks, I'd be like, all right.
I'd believe in anything at that point. Yeah.
Maybe there is magic in the world, but he still doesn't believe up until maybe the last part of the film, but I think I would believe if I just arrived in the North Pole with elves walking around me nope, I don't believe it until I see them.
Yeah, well, it's true, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a great movie, a classic, as far as I'm concerned, a modern day classic since it's come out within the last 15 years.
Well, we're going on to number 2 now, since you mentioned Santa Claus. My number 2 is the Santa Claus with Tim Allen from 94, I think it was.
Yep, came
94,
out in
95. Was it Christmas 94?
Yeah, I looked it
or
up.
November, probably 94.
Looked it up yesterday.
Yeah.
It was the first. I think it was the only time in 1994 where somebody had the number 1 movie, had the number 1 book, and the number 1 TV show all at the same time.
Oh yeah, and then next year he's got Toy Story.
Yep. So he had
the 90s were good for Tim Allen.
Pretty much.
I think. I mean, it's like they made 2 sequels to it later, and the 2 sequels just feel so Disney Channel movie-ish,
Yeah.
But the original is really it's a Disney movie, but it's very adult themes. There's dealing with divorce and that type of thing, and it's not like this kiddie movie that is all happy-go-lucky. They actually deal with some real stuff, and especially stuff all the characters dealing with their childhood and what they believed growing up, and it's just Judge Reinhold getting a weenie whistle for Christmas,
whistle.
But cheesy stuff like that, as a kid you don't quite understand because you're a kid, but there's still stuff to relate to as a kid in the movie. But watching as an adult, you're you kind of get that.
You start
not just a Christmas feeling, but that childhood feeling, all very sentimental. So yeah. I think it kind of it does both very, very well. Yeah, that's my number 2.
It's a great movie. And that's where the sequels kind of mess up. And the score, I like the score of the Santa Claus because every time I hear it, I think of it. And it's not really done by anybody who's popular or anything like that. And the score isn't something that's memorable to a lot of people, but when they didn't have it in part 2 and part 3, I was really disappointed. Really? You didn't that was a great score. You should have kept it going. But those two movies were just completely different feel altogether.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, totally skip the sequels, ignore those. But like in terms of the original, I think it's a classic.
It's a great story.
If it's not yet, it's going to be considered a classic. The original.
I mean, if you really think about it, though, in order to become Santa Claus, you gotta kill him.
yeah, he killed Santa Claus and became. Yeah,
I mean that's pretty dark. And then the kid at the very end of the movie says, Judge Reinhold says, "You're going to make a great psychiatrist someday." He's like, "I'm going to go into the family business." And it's like, so basically, you got to kill your dad if you want to get into the family business in order to become part of.
Well, I never thought of that. So thanks for ruining the movie.
No problem.
For me. Forget it. It's off my list now.
But it's true.
What's your number 2?
Number 2. We've already discussed it. Christmas Vacation's my number 2.
Okay. Why? Why is it your number 2?
It's really hard to explain. I mean, I enjoy the hell out of it. It's just a fun movie to watch. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why it's my number 2. I just enjoy the hell out of the movie. It makes me laugh. It's one of those Christmas movies that it's probably the most raunchiest Christmas movie on my list.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the only one that's rated R on my list.
Yeah. It is rated R. I'm sitting there thinking, and I guess it is because he does go on those rants at the very end of the movie. But it has some dirty humor in it. Oh yeah, but I love it. Yeah. One movie that I'll mention before I get to my number 1 that's an honorable mention is Bad Santa. Okay. And the only reason it's not on my list is because I only saw it for the first time maybe 4 years ago, and I think it's great, but it's not really timeless to me because I didn't see it when it first came out or when I was younger or anything. But I think that's a pretty good, like, in terms of an R-rated Christmas comedy, that's probably, in my top 5 if I just said R-rated Christmas comedies. Yeah. Christmas Vacation is much better, but I think Bad Santa is pretty good too. That's one honorable mention I'm going to mention. I got 3, but I'm not going to mention my honorable mentions. I can't even say the word until you say your number 1. Okay. I'm trying to think if I have any other honorable mentions. A Christmas Story is another one that's honorable mention. Yeah, that's one I've mentioned as well. Honorable mention. Yeah, it's obviously it's a great classic. I wanted to pick it. I wanted to put it as my number 5, but I'm sitting there going, how can you put that over It's a Wonderful Life? Right, and that's the thing. It would probably be like my number 6 or 7 or something like that if I actually did this. So that's another one. My number 1 Christmas movie is A Muppet Christmas Carol. I know it was your number 4. Yeah, number 5. Number 4. I think it's by far it's the best portrayal of Scrooge. Michael Caine is just perfect in the movie, but I love every single song in that movie, and the movie is so Christmas, but at the same time so Muppets, but somehow it just works. Yeah, it's a nice balance. It has that Muppets humor, but it's not like cheesy and stupid. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes the Muppets go kind of too far, and it's like it doesn't always work out. But this one is probably like the best mix of Christmas Muppets humor and it's a really short movie too. It's like an hour and 20 music. Minutes. Yeah, it's not long, and I watch it every year for Christmas, and I can't wait to watch it this year. I'll probably watch it. I think I watch it most years on Christmas Eve. I think it's just perfect. That's my number 1. It's definitely a great movie. I mean, I think I did see it in theaters, and of course, when I walked out of the theater, I was like, that was amazing. And you're sitting there singing the songs in the streets, here comes Mr. Humbug. Yeah, right. The lyrics of all the music is so witty. Or like, I don't know, there's just a million parts I could just go on and on about it. But I think everything about the movie is pretty strong. Yeah, I do too. And, well, my number 1 is... Well, before you do that, you got to say your honorable mentions. My honorable mentions. I did say A Christmas Story is one of them. Home Alone is another one that I really... Yeah, that's another one that I thought about as well, yeah. And Scrooged. Scrooged, okay. That's a good one, too. Home Alone, I remember when that came out, we watched it in theaters, and I really wanted to go I really wanted to watch it again that same season. Of course, it wasn't out on video, and I wanted to watch it after... it came out, but it didn't come out on video until the following Christmas. I had to wait a whole other year to watch this freaking movie. It was the same thing with like the Santa Claus. I remember that. Yeah, and even like another honorable mention. I'll mention Elf. I think Elf is a pretty solid movie. Yeah, it's like one of those modern classic Christmas movies where and if you think about it, they really haven't come out with any good Christmas movies since maybe Elf and The Polar Express and I can't think. I mean, Bad Santa's up there as well because you mentioned it. But
yeah, I never saw the Harold and Kumar Christmas movie. I heard it was pretty decent.
It's good. I mean, I think with any of those movies, you have to be on something in order to really enjoy them. I mean, it is. It is kind of based on that, anyways. But
it's very much a stoner comedy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I've seen the first two, and they're funny, but I never saw the third one. I'm trying to think what else.
I can't think of any modern Christmas movies today, other than what I mentioned. I mean, Polar Express was 2004. Christmas Carol, the one with Jim Carrey, came out in like 2010. That's that's not on my list, so I don't know.
So what's your number one?
My number one is one you already mentioned, and actually it's your number two, The Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus. Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
That's
number
one.
That's your number one.
Yeah. We already kind of talked about it, but yeah, it's a good feeling kind of movie. It's just
yeah. I can live with that.
And
I thought we were going to have some
kinda,
sort of debate during this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your number two is my number one, and that, I mean, I guess you can kind of say that would be, I don't know, what would be the number one Christmas movie between the two of us?
It probably would be Santa Claus.
Yeah, I would say. I was going to have a debate about it, but
and Muppet is your number 4. So
yeah,
if we're like weighting it on average or whatever,
Santa Claus
it would
is
be
up there.
Santa Claus, which I'm okay with.
Yep, it works for me because I was actually ready for a debate to just really.
It's yeah. I mean, it's more of a. I'm not saying like this is the order of how good these movies are.
No,
it's more of like how good they are to
me. Yeah.
Because, I mean, realistically, if we're going to say what's the best movie, It's a Wonderful Life probably is a better movie than all of these.
Probably.
But, like, it doesn't mean quite as much as the Santa Claus or A Muppet Christmas Carol.
It just depends on how you were brought up. And, It's a Wonderful Life. It's probably number one in a lot of people's lists that are older than us.
Right. This is because they grew up with it, yeah. Right. Or they might say like Miracle on 34th Street or something, which is another classic.
And we never did mention that. And I do like the new one with the newer one with Richard Attenborough.
Yeah, that one's good too.
It came out, I think, the same year as the Santa Claus, and it was kind of pushed to the side and forgotten about it somewhat because the Santa Claus was out and killing it at the box office. But oh well.
Yeah. So that's our top 5 Christmas movies. I guess if people have their top 5 movies or they want to mention some movies that we didn't talk about, they can post something in the comment section.
Yep.
Let us know what your favorites are as well.
Yeah, and you were right last week when it came to
yes, that's right.
Star Wars.
The Last Jedi. You
won by $4 million. I mean,
yep.
If it was $4 million and one, I would have won, but
you really underestimated them.
Yeah, I did. I said 210. You said 216. So I mean, it wasn't like we were way off. It's not like it.
Yeah.
But
and by 216, I actually meant 220.
Yeah, sure.
I just was tired when I said that. So
I didn't have time to think. I just threw a number out.
Yeah. So I was dead on. Actually,
I'm really surprised how much backlash this movie's getting.
You know what? I'll just. I mean, we already did our podcast about it, so you can listen to that. But just quick thing about that. I think if instead of Force Awakens, the original Star Wars came out in 2015, and then The Empire Strikes Back came out this year, it would be the same exact backlash because it's such Empire is such a different movie than Star Wars. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People would be like, I think people probably were like surprised and shocked, and I think that's I think The Force Awakens was exactly the Star Wars movie we needed in 2015 to get the series rolling again, where it doesn't take risks. And this is the movie that we needed to really push the series forward because I think people are more upset that they were wrong about their predictions and stuff. I don't think anybody predicted what would actually happen.
No one knew Snoke was going to. I mean, I'm not going to get into spoilers. I'll stop myself right there. But if you haven't seen it, but there's a lot of things in this movie where you're like, man, I was way off base.
Yeah.
But and I was fine with it. After I watched it and walked out of the theater, I was like, all right, well, I actually really liked that movie. I liked that it made it different, and you have no idea where Episode 9's going.
Yeah, it is jarring at first because it is so different in some ways, but so I think it just takes some time to kind of stop and think about it. I think most of the backlash is probably from people who just immediately, their immediate motion is, I don't like change or something. But if he takes some time to think about it, I think the reception from the fans will be much better.
It'll
as time goes
slowly
on.
revert. I mean,
I
eventually,
think it's almost like too clever in some ways.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. There's a lot to kind of process.
And now I'm really curious about JJ and what he's going to do with the series in 9. Is he going to possibly change some things that Rian Johnson did and maybe go back to having Rey's parents being this or having Snoke do that? Whatever he's going to do. But I don't know. It's 2 years.
We got a lot of time to discuss that.
Yeah.
We got to discuss Han Solo in the next couple months as well.
That's true. And they got there's a trailer. Did you see the trailers that came out here lately? They got Ocean's 8.
I was about to watch that, but then you called.
Oh, well, that's
I'll definitely check that out, and we can talk about that on next week's podcast.
And check out Mortal Instruments too if you haven't seen that one.
Mm-hmm.
Or not Mortal Instruments, Mortal Engines. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Mortal Engine. That's interesting. But what I don't like about it already is they're like calling it an epic saga, and it's the first movie that could possibly kind of jumpstart a new saga. But
yeah, they always want to say that.
Yeah, but
hope it's next Harry Potter. Or something.
or I don't know why they do that. Just kind of. I mean it's got me interested. The teaser trailer does, so watch it if you haven't seen it. But yeah, I hate it when they do that.
It's like it's based off books, right?
Yeah, it's based off of books.
Harry Potter, or the next Golden Compass.
It's based in like the future, and like cities and towns are on top of like vehicles that the towns can move around. And
interesting.
I guess London is this massive thing where they took different popular monuments from the city and kind of put it on this massive transport, and it eats up like smaller towns. From what I gather from the trailer, I mean, it's really out there the way it's done.
Huh?
And
I'll check that out.
Yeah,
that
so
sounds interesting. Actually,
definitely check it out. But just when it comes to new sagas and stuff like that, they shouldn't say anything until the first movie actually does something. When it comes to that,
yeah, no, I definitely agree. They try to hype it up too early.
Yeah,
doesn't know it's good.
All right, man, I'm going to get going.
To all of our listeners, have a Merry Christmas. Let us know what your favorite Christmas movies are, and if you haven't seen the ones that we mentioned today, definitely we recommend them.
Right, and come back next Wednesday where we'll talk about our favorite films of 2017.
Sounds good. Well, I'll talk to you then.
Adios.
Adios.